Tēnā rawa mai anō e pā e tō mātai matua nui te rangi te iehi hi uhi wheoitu. Nā hau anō rā tēnei wā tonu nei anō whakarite tonu mai anō ai. Hai aha, hai noi ake atu anō mā haku ki roto, putaati. Ki roto ki ngā kōrero, ngā take kōrero, hai kawe ake, kakawe ake atu ki roto ki te wā nei. No reira āhai whakamoe miti ai, me taka whakaaro nui ke ake atu anō, ki roto ki ngā iwi. Me ki ngā iwi e whitu, puta i te motu, mai i... I mua tonu mai anō ai, ki mua tonu mai anō ai i te tāinga mai o ka pene kuki, ko ngā mea e whitu o roto i tō tātauna motu nei. I te tiri o te moana Hawaii ki tau, Aotearoa Hawaii ki tau, New Tireni e ki ia kene. Ko mō ai hapu tērā, ko te awa hapu tērā. Ko Tahumaakaakanuimatua, hapu nui tonu le tā le wara nei. Mā moe hapu nui tonu le tā le wara nei. Mōriori hapu, tai atu anō hoki kia Māori, me ko Māui o rātau, o roto tonu i hoi a rātau. Putaatu kia awa hapu, putaatu hoki kia te atiawa nui no runga te rangi o ngā iwi. Oho whakaaro nui, mea ku whakaaro tonu hoki epa, kia tau atu anō ai, tā haku e ino i tonu i honei. Kia tau atu anō ai, kātoatoa, ki runga tonu ki a rātau, putaatu, mātau tonu anō hoki a Tahumaakaakanuimatua me ki. E rā tonu anō o mātau, I roto tonu i hoi a mātau i te whanaunga. Te huanga puta katoa i roto i a mātau kahia ki roa tonu i ho te wā kare anō i te kite nui atu. Nā reira ngā whakaaro nui ki a rātau, putaatu ki a e rā, te hunga, putaatu tonu kia e rā o rātau me ki he whawhai tonu i hoki a rātau te āhuatanga o te wā, o te rā, ngā āhuatanga katoa tonu i ho ki a rātau, i te kokonitanga, ki te wā pū anō ki a rātau, putanua, ngā whakaaro nui hoki ki a rātau, me taku i noi. Kia tau i ho whakaaro nui, ki roto ki a rātau, ki roto tonu i ho ki a rātau katoa, a māhau tonu mai anō rātau, whakaora mai anō ai, i roto i ngā whakauauatanga ki a rātau, te mō rika tonu i ho te ao. I te ingoa te i e hua. Mene, ka piti hona ka tātai hono ko rātau mā tērā te mate hoki ki a rātau. Rātau rā kua riro tonu atu iho ki tua o te ārai o te mate haere putaatu, haere katoa. Tonu anō koutou ki te pō iuri, te pō tangotango, te pō tiatu ki a koutou. Haere tēnā, haere whakauti atu. Ka piti hona ka tātai hono, ka tātai mātonu anō, tēnei tātai te kānuhi ora ki a tātai koa. Tātai mā, kai te mihi atu. Tēnā rā, ko tātai ka emeki, ko tātai tonu iho. Kua huri ke mai nei ki roto ki ngā kōrero a Tahumaakaakanuimatua. I runga i ngā huatanga ki ngā Whakataunga Kereeme ki a tātai mātau. Ki roto ki te wā. E no reira nau mai, haere nau mai. Tēnā rā tātou, kai te mihi atu. Māori ora, kahuri. Ai, ko hoki tēnei, ko hoki ke mai ne anō rā ki roto ki a tātou mātau. ki roto ki te wā nei tonu haiaha te kawe mai i awa kōrero rā. Yes, and all our prayers go out to all those out there beyond even our iwi, all the prayers for all the iwi, you know, we know who we are and we know who are the hapu ne tārewa all amongst the iwi there and amongst the iwi there. And let's not forget, we know that they're the iwi hours, including all the iwi there in the prayers today. Prayers for all of us, because we all have our mana and our place, you know, our mana whenua and our place in the motu. And it's so awesome to see and hear about, and to bring back also all that kōrero that was lost from within that time. Because over time, as settlers and Captain Cook and those he brought with him, they started to settle in the motu. Over time, things started to get lost, especially through the kōrero of ko huiarau. We've been looking hard at a lot of that kōrero of te wakaminenga o te rūnanga ko huiarau. And checking out a lot of that kōrero, because it got lost in amongst, basically amongst all the translation going on, you know. Those first years, between 1769 and 1790 roundabouts, were quite difficult times. They were very, very difficult, but they're probably a lot more highly, you know, there's a lot more literature on those times now. And we can time with lots and lots more literature around the world on those times. But specifically within New Zealand, there's probably a lot more now. But what is integral is understanding the reasons why a lot of the kōrero, a lot of the exactness and the accuracy and the preciseness. Aroha mai. Gee, I've been a little coffee of late too, and sometimes in a mad rush like I was last week, but I'm not today. I knew I was going to be late today, so. But it's good to be back and in with our kōrero. To bring us through into the update today. And a lot more around settlements today to discuss, especially the complaints we have officially started to lay our complaints against the other settlements that we believe majoritarily are illegal. And so we shall be following through those complaints. We may later on bring through the investigation additionally to add to those complaints. Yeah, a lot in the update today. But before I get to that, yeah, I'll just finish off where I was now. Yeah, so well, I mean, we've come to a very important time in the settlements and within our work in particular in the space. And yeah, the work on those 7 iwi have been a long time coming. They've been a long time coming. And I mean, we were already set on that. We already knew that there was something like that in the motu, but it wasn't until we started to work a lot more with te wakaminenga o te rūnanga ko huiarau, that we started to cotton on and started to be able to adjust our sights, our foci, and majorly start to get that preciseness and exactness around the different tribal affiliations among all the tribes as to who were the primary preeminent and prominent in the motu, and that we would term iwi. So firstly, we looked for the structure in the tribes, because that's what an iwi is. An iwi just describes the structure of the most extensive of super tribal entities in the country, and the most extensive are those ones that I mentioned in my prayer. You would have heard that. Moai, Hapu, blah, blah, blah. One of the reasons why we find it difficult to look at the populations of Moai, Hapu, and Te Awa is another one, but there's a number of Te Awa of us out there, and but we are the most senior surviving of Te Awa. Most of the Te Awa, I think, surviving today are more so intermarried. They're intermarried and they're not actually Tuturu Te Awa. That's why we're the most senior surviving, because we're Tuturu Te Awa. We are the Tuturu Te Awa. So, and we're nothing like Awa. I mean, Awa's got to realise that Te Awa is quite different. I think the difficulty with Awa is that Awa Hapu has an impression that Te Awa is the same as Awa, because when they look at their whakapapa, it looks like they're most direct of Te Awa, and that's not true. That's actually not true. There's a lot of different lines missing out of their whakapapa that they don't know about, that come in between those particular connections with Te Awa. And so they need to understand that, and that also that Te Awa is not Te Tini o Toi, see? If we were, then maybe there would be some truth to that, that there was a most direct connection of Awa through Te Awa. But that karekau te tika tēnā, harakau te tika tēnā nā o te tūāhuatanga e kōrero tia kena ki roto o Awa, Hapu. No, kai te tēnā. And so we are most direct of Moai Hapu, okay? Most direct of Moai Hapu, which were the first groupings that came to the land, the first of the migrations. Remembering there were three major ones, okay? The first of the major migrations was Moai Hapu, Moriori, all those people, the Maori, the Maui, and we all came together, and through Te Awa was Tahumaakaakanuimatua. Okay, and we hold on to our one being the major surviving Hapu nui tonu te tāre wara nei, from that particular, most direct from that particular line of ancestry of Te Awa. And it's so hard to pinpoint yeah, I mean the count, te toko pai katoa o e nei iwi, Miki Hapu, Te Awa Hapu, Moai Hapu, hauaua kia ki te kauatu i te tatau mai o te toko pai kia rātau, kia Te Awa Hapu, kia Moai Hapu, because they've definitely shrunken down over the centuries, okay? Definitely shrunken down. Though they're still hapu nui tonu te tārewa. They've, you know, a lot of the major and primary groups that have descended from them have branched out into different areas. A lot of the, and different other groups, and a lot of the intermarried groups as well have done the same thing. Like Awa Hapu, like Te Atiawa Nui, no Runga Te Rangi. And we know these are the major groups because we've studied their ariki, we've studied their taiopuru, we've studied their waka confederations, you know, all those sorts of things. And there's no ariki, there's no taiopuru with greater mana in the land. We're talking mana tūturu, we're talking mana tapu as well. And, you know, from tuakana to teina, and it doesn't really matter in amongst, you know, in the midst, looking at mana tapu or tuakana teina in the midst of the seven primary hapu there, preeminent, prominent, and primary in the motu. What you start to get is the clear indications that they are quite, you know, there's not much that sets them apart from each other. There's not much, okay? Tuakana o teina they might be, it doesn't really matter. Even though you're 6 down in the line, doesn't really matter. Or really whether you're 7, because we're talking right across the motu. So unilaterally, the mana tapu between each, there's not much in between. Okay? Tuakana is probably where the most difference is. But in terms of mana, yeah, there's not much in between us, really. It just looks like that on paper. Okay? But for Te Awa and Moai Hapu, it's hard to, what I'm talking about there is it's hard to gather the numbers. It's hard to collate the numbers because most of their groups have splintered off, grown into other Hapu nui tonu na tārewa. And that's, that's why we've got the 7 groups. Most of the major ancestries branched off, like for Moriori, like for Te Awa, like for Tahumaakaakanuimatua, and then so on as we get all our connections right through. I mean, let's not forget Moriori are very close to Awa, they're very close to Tuhua, and Moai Hapu as well, and us, we're very close to all those different tribes. And so a lot of the intermarriages that we, a lot of the uri that came from those, a lot of the descent groups that came from those intermarriages and the eventual HapuIwi.Amuamu.SOC.20.03.23, they started to bear a lot more different ancestries, not necessarily ones, and obviously it's very, very tough to become an iwi. Hey, it's very, very tough, otherwise we'd have a lot more. It's very easy to be a iwi or a people, that's what people keep saying today. They keep using the word iwi as the description for an iwi, which is a people. That's really what you're saying when you use it as a name for a people all the time. Otherwise, let's not forget, people, Tuturu, it's just like one of these groups that I'm talking about. So there was only 7 people in the motu, Tuturu, and that's pre-1769 AD. Pre-circa 1769 AD, there were only 7 people in the motu. There was Moai, Te Awa, Tahumaakaakanuimatua, Māmoe, Moriori, Awa, and Te Atiawa Nui no Runga Te Rangi. Everyone else was either HapuIwi.Amuamu or Uri. Okay, and Uri just means, they're still tribal groups. They're still super tribes. They just have no ariki uretārewa. Okay? And so why the reasons for that? I just while I've been working with a lot of this sort of stuff lately, so I just thought I'd just clarify some of that for you. And a lot of the reasons why is because e tatauma, not all of our tribes grew with the conditions that they were able to become HapuIwi.Amuamu. It's not a guaranteed. Everyone looks at our tribes, they think, oh yeah, we've got heaps of people, so let's just call it an iwi, and that's it. But that's not how it works. See, that's not how it works. Tuturu, not every tribe could become an iwi. Tuturu, not every tribe could become an HapuIwi.Amuamu. And Tuturu, not every tribe was actually a hapu. Okay? Okay, let's not forget that to be a hapu officially, you have to have an uretārewa. Okay? Structure of an iwi. Now, I've spoken to you about that before. Structure of an iwi. Now, you need 5 to 8 plus. Because most of the iwi in the motu have, easily 10, 12, 18, 21 uretārewa, easy. And out of each of those uretārewa and the different lineages through among those 7 iwi, sorry, we just went on the blink there. So I was just waiting to come back on there. Now, among those 7 iwi, quite clearly, it's very, very tough to be an iwi, and you have to have a certain caliber of ariki and a certain caliber of taiopuru to really secure the conditions were in most cases, most of the tribes, and it's obvious, in most cases the conditions didn't suit from those tribes, even though they all had ariki, they all had whānau, they all had uri. Okay? But sometimes tribes remained as uri, sometimes tribes remained as hapu or HapuIwi.Amuamu. And of course, we're talking about the seven primary, preeminent major tribes of the Motu. And then sometimes, very rarely, you got iwi. And that's where their name comes from. There's the particular structure and form of the most extensive hapu that you can get, which is the hapu nui tonu te tārewa. And so that's a difficult one to be able to establish in the Motu. And so we've found for that. All our tribes were all about advancement. They were all about, development and things like that. Growing their whānau, all that sort of thing, and living peaceably and life quality and all that sort of thing was huge. But a lot of the time, most of our tribes could not develop the conditions for which to advance in that fashion. So a lot of tribes did not grow into hapu le tārewa. A lot of tribes did not become hapu. A lot of them remained uri, like kahunu, like tūhoe. Okay, and some remained hapu le tārewa. Okay, like waikato and like te arawa. Okay, so even though today we like calling them an iwi or a people, that's fine. But the Tuturu, the Tuturu definition for that particular term is actually revolved around the structure of the hapu nui tonu te tārewa, which revolved around 5 to 8 ure tārewa. And so therefore 5 to 8 plus, ure tārewa, and therefore 5 to 8 plus hapu that descended from a most senior of the ure tārewa and descended most directly right through their different groups. And of course they all remained as such a part of that major grouping, that the primary part of the grouping, or the most senior part of the grouping of, like for our one, Tahumaakaakanuimatua, which is the very top part, the very senior, which means every hapu that was born from that ure tārewa, it all starts from the first ure tārewa. The next one develops through there, the next one develops through there. Sometimes conditions never suited, and in fact, in most occasions, conditions never suited. And so there you have it. All of that sort of kōrero, just to clarify for you why we have only 7 iwi. And that's challenged a lot of people's thinking, I know. But that's because you didn't know previously exactly what an iwi was. Now that you do, the secondary meaning, which is iwi, which means people, it doesn't, iwi itself can mean people, but that's secondary. The proper word for people, in terms of the modern description using the word iwi in the definition, is iwi. See, that's the modern description that you're using, is iwi. Now, and the reason I wanted to explain those things is just to clarify for some people. There's been a lot of questions around that. Okay, a lot of questioning around there, and you know that. That's what we do. We ensure that people are a lot better informed, and we get to we get to ensure that we squash people's doubts around some things that we might raise, or help to reassure people, or ensure that they, any sort of difficulties they might be having understanding some of the concepts or precepts that we talk around in our kōrero, just so that they understand clearly exactly what we're talking about. So I thought I'd start off with, first of all, explaining, I actually brought it into prayer and prayed over our 7 iwi of the Mutu, because those are our iwi, pre-1769. You know what? We always say in Tahumaakaakanuimatua that when Captain Cook got here was the beginning of the end. The beginning of the end of life as we know it. So those 7 iwi, we think it would be very, very fundamental, to be very, very significant for the future of our peoples, for us to primarily work around those 7 tribes, because you're not going to get anything better. I mean, we know Waikato and Kiingitanga and the whakapaparanga mai o Waikato and the Kiingitanga and all of that sort of thing. Just to put people's mind at ease. Yes, very special. Yeah, we've got a lot of very, very special Hapu-Re-Tārua. Waikato are not the only ones. Okay? And yes, they're quite senior among, awa and people like that. They're very highly connected with Te Aroha. And same with us. They're very well connected with us. The mother of Mahinarangi comes from our people, Hinehoro, who comes from one of the groups out of, I can't think of the name at the moment. Pārua. She comes out of the Pārua of Rākai Whakairi. And that's one of our most junior tribes of Tahumaakaakanuimatua. Tutura. And that particular tribe. Out of that particular tribe came Tahumaakaakanuimatua the third. So, and this Rākai Whakairi, she would be senior to Tahumaakaakanuimatua the third, and she came out of the Pārua of Rākai Whakairi. That's the tēnā wahine, te whāine, kia Mahinarangi ko Hinehoro, ko ia tērā. And that's our, one of our strong connections with the Kiingitanga. And we know people talk kahungunu this, just so overused and so overly exaggerated, their name. It's not funny. So, and even when people talk about the mother of Mahinarangi, they say that she's kahungunu. That's not true. She is Tuturu, Tahumaakaakanuimatua. And we need people to understand that, and that we know her reo. See, when you know things like that, things like te reo tūturu o te tūpuna, be it wahine, be it tāne, very, very special connection and evidence once you have that reo. Okay, once you have that reo. So we know for a fact she's not kahunu, and the mother of Mahinarangi is actually Tahumaakaakanuimatua. Okay? Now, not only that, but we have a lot more kōrero around that regards her actual father, who, to my knowledge, is te whatu piti. That's Tahumaakaakanuimatua Tuturu again. So we need to stop getting those things mixed up. The Tuturu whakapapa of those tūpuna is Tahumaakaakanuimatua. It doesn't matter how you want to sanction that through, okay? If you want to sanction your opposition kōrero, even though it's inaccurate and you want to get the Crown to sanction that through for you, my advice to you is don't do it, because it does not rectify or change anything. Those tūpuna are Tahumaakaakanuimatua, and that's never going to change, okay? And that's just the news we have for you if you're some of these groups of kahunu still trying to work against us with our accuracy, preciseness and exactness in evidence for our tupuna and our whakapapa and whakapapa kōrero and your inaccurate kōrero. But well, we know, you remember how we've been talking about the politics. We've got a wee bit of that today, but a lot less heavier. It's been quite heavy lately talking around the politics of things. But this is part of that particular politics I was talking about that kahunu's been playing for years. They've been playing that for years with the Crown on side. That's, I don't want to tell kahunu, but we have one word for that sort of thing, and that's called kupapa. See, that's called a kupapa. And that is where you change your mothership. That's one of the things that kupapa used to do. They used to change their mothership to something more along the lines of the opposition. Okay, that's what kupapa do. They change their mothership and they go more to the side of the opposition, which is a kupapa. Okay, so kahunu need to have a real good hard look at themselves and look at a lot of their findings, because once they're found inaccurate, highly inaccurate too, sanctioning them through the Crown does not change anything. Being able to obtain mandates, though made legal through sanctioning of the Crown, does not change anything. Okay, and that's another part of the reasons why I wanted to start off in the way that I have today. Why? Because a lot of those arguments are going to come through later on. Okay, where we argue that our evidence and our ability to substantiate our evidence and the things that we claim and the things that we've raised in the mutu. And in particular, a lot of those arguments are going to come out of our current complaints that we're making against Whakataunga and the rangitane nui rangi of Waitarapa. Okay, and one of the major reasons why they're in trouble with us is because they've gone overboard in terms of claiming the population that they do. Rangitane nui rangi are only around about 400, 500 people. Okay, and kahungunu, and specifically those that are a part of Waitarapa are a minority in there too. Okay, and they need to realise the huge majority within Waitarapa, and that's not even an entity that we recognise, but Waitarapa has been taking care of those lands under kahungunu and the Crown. That's their kupapa mothership. They have been trying to run that place all this time. Now, the thing about kahungunu is that because they're an uri, they haven't even got the mana to be able to do the particular work they need to do with that entity regards those particular lands. But most of the people in there, they'll find Tahumaakaakanuimatua Tutura, and therefore the lands are as well. And that kahungunu make up a minority, and so do rangitane. Very, very small numbers. And then, in fact, in the whole of Waitarapa Tararua, for kahungunu, it's only around about 4,000. Okay? They claim 12, and that's incorrect. That's absolutely incorrect. So these settlements are definitely illegal. Now, we are complaining against those ones. I think there's difficulty with us complaining against the Crown in terms of te tiriti. So what we've done is added that to our added that particular complaint to our amended statement of claim, and that's a part of our kōrero today. So we've got the update coming up next. We've got the complaints. That's Waitarapa Moana. We've only set those ones so far, and we've added The third complaint that we have, which was against the Tiriti 1840 being used fraudulently by the Crown in 1840, and we've added that to our claim. Well, it is our reo, our te awa reo that they utilised within the Tiriti. You know what, and the way that they utilised it was particularly fraudulent, and, they used it prejudicially. They even did some omitting along the way. They used lots of different things, and that will come up in the statement of claim, amended statement of claim kōrero that we have today. Just some of that kōrero today. We'll probably get some more with better capability of being able to my runanga, te runanga nui o tahu. My board is still working with it at the moment, but I've decided to still carry on through with it today and bring it into our kōrero today and talk about the amended statement of claim, because it's a very, very important part of whaukai and kōrero today. We were hoping to put it through tonight, but because some of the Runanga Nui board have not completed their parts within the actual amended statement of claim before we finalise it, we're going to now. We were going to send it tonight, but we're going to now send it on Friday at close of business, around about 7 p.m. Friday. We'll send it through to the Waitangi Tribunal. Now. And that should shape the final form, the concluding of our statement of claim. Finally, it's been years in the making, since 2009, and finally, I mean, we're down to even just about 2 pages. It's a 2-page claim, but it still has everything. You know what? When we first started, I looked at the state of our very first form and structure of the very first layout of our claim and detail of our claim, and that was 95 pages long. That was 95 pages long. Now, we whittled down pretty quick to around about 3 pages, and now we've gone right down from 3 pages into around about 2. But you wouldn't think so. Once you hear all the details, just immaculate and multi-detailed and counterclaims and overlaps of claims and overlaps of ancestry claims, etc., etc., etc. But now we're getting up to concluding final draft of the actual claim now. And we should have that sent through on Friday. And Te Runanga Nui o Tahu should be finished with that by end of business Friday, which should be around about 7 o'clock on Friday. E tatauma. So let's go straight to the update. Now, I've got some more kōrero to be had with the Crown representatives that I have direct contact with. I need to speak to some others around the actual, there's some very specific and very particular details I need to get right in terms of these particular complaints. Now, our understanding is that these particular complaints won't affect our claims. In fact, they should assist our claims, these complaints. But the third complaint that we had, that was the use of the tiriti, a direct complaint against the Crown, that we actually want to take them straight to court for. But firstly, we thought that, and that was, our advice was that maybe could cause us a bit more problems than we would hope for in terms of problems to our settlements. Let's not forget, we're still waiting for settlements. Now, in the process of that, e tatauma, we Basically, by the end of last year, the third and final reading of the Whakataunga settlement bill gave us everything. Basically a whole turnaround and everybody looking towards trying to establish the true iwi. Well, we believe and know, because we're the only ones with all the evidence, and we understand exactly who the true iwi is of Whakataunga, and it could not be any other but Tahumaakaakanuimatua. Now, as much as people, might want to still doubt that, I think in terms that we've got all the substantial evidence, we've got the reo, we've got the tikanga, we've got the whakapapa kōrero, we've got the tika and the kawa. Everything ceases there as far as we're concerned. As far as we're concerned, it doesn't go any further. So if people want to bring in any other new tribes, they're not going to get counted in here, because they would be counted as new iwi. And if those iwi don't stack up, because we know all of the iwi of the region, and we know that we are the only primary iwi of the region. So if anyone brings in anything new, they're not going to get anywhere with that. Okay, but we sense that might happen. Otherwise, the kōrero around the Whakataunga settlement bill told us everything. Okay, that we, and by rights, we are being recognised and acknowledged, and we were the only primary iwi in the hearings around the Whakataunga settlement bill. And we told the hearings straight, we are the iwi. It could never be kahunu, because kahunu is not an iwi, they're an uri. And we gave the reasons why. We gave all the evidence. We even gave over a lot of that evidence. In fact, all of the primary evidence of 600 primary documents of evidence. And they're huge. They're huge. Some of those documents have 600, 900 pages. And we're talking primary. You can't get any more primary than that of all our kōrero that we gave to the hearing. We also added some more later on, based around the different other areas of the bill that we wanted recognised. I think we ran into some difficulties there where a lot of those kōrero had to be closed off by a certain time. So by the time we got our final kōrero through for the last lot of hearings, we had to just make do with the first one, getting us anywhere. And in fact, we were actually quite happy with that. But what they would have seen if they had have looked at all the other evidence of all the rest is that it was hugely, it's majorly, primarily such a substantial addition to the kōrero that they would have been even more blown away than from our first kōrero and the first hearings that we went to. So it was a shame the rest of the kōrero didn't get counted in, but the first lot did, which eliminated the inaccurate thinking and terminology within the bill that says that kahunu are the major nothing could be any more further than the truth. But what we're waiting for, this is what we're waiting for, is for all of that kōrero around the final reading within the House of Representatives. This is where all the kōrero took place around the settlement bill, before it was made law, to actually materialise. We haven't had, heard too much later about that, and we want to encourage and urge. That's what we've been trying to do through our kōrero, urge everyone to push that forward now. There's no better time than the now. And of course, once we've got that, settlement should come through very, very much, very quickly, right at that time, as we get to fully appreciate the materialization, te whakatinangatanga, in other words, te whakakiko hiatu o e nā kōrero katoa, e nā whiriwhiringa kōrero o ngā mema pāremata ki te pirene. Okay? And so we are looking forward to our settlement, and the settlement will come through because that kōrero, I mean, this is one kōrero that represented, believe it or not, representatives, members of Parliament in the House of Representatives, they cannot lie around kōrero like that. But we just want to wait for that materialisation of that, and to hurry it up a little, urge it on a little, because what we need is for most of that, the particular aspects around all of that kōrero to start to come through majorly in terms of being materialised within the region for a start, among the people also, and for us to bring it through and really hammer it home. There's nothing wrong with kahungunu, it's just that it's an uri, okay? That's all you know, if you're feeling down and out about the fact that you were wrong about kahungunu, that's not a problem. Kahungunu is still a tribe of the region. Kahungunu is actually, though, an uri, okay? There's a big difference. Now, that means that kahungunu did not have an uratārewa, okay? There's still no need to be down and out about something to be down and out about or to be embarrassed about, because kahungunu was still of an ariki line, so he was still ariki. See, all those sorts of things are not wrong, but just the status and the actual status of his tribe. And then there's his descendants, and then if you have a good look at things, teina katoa, there's teina uri teina, mata muri teina. I've said all that before. And when you're of those three categories of status of teina, you're part of the very, very most teina of all the groups. And you know, when you're of that status, your tribe's got to be a lot lesser of status rather than a lot more. Okay, so kahungunu as a tribe could never have been of the overly exaggerated tribe that the Crown wanted people to believe. And these are some of the kōrero that we're having with the Crown, because we're very upset with a lot of this sort of thing. And a lot of the reasons that the Crown sanctions a lot of these things through, even though they know that there's no evidence among all their kōrero, there's no evidence or proof of what they're claiming. What we are upset about is that sometimes some of these groups like kahungunu rangitane, they want those things still sanctioned through, so they can still claim them, and so that publicly they look like they're still legal, and they're not. And this is why we're complaining against Whakataunga and the rangitane nui a rangi at the moment, because most of their claims, most of their settlements, the huge majority, would be incorrect and therefore illegal, and also Tahumaakaakanuimatua Tutura. Okay? Yeah, they cannot play that sort of politics with us. You know, they've played it before with other groups. I think Rangitane got done like that back in the early 80s, or mid-80s, or somewhere around there. They got done like a dinner by the kahungunu who played that sort of politics with them then. They've tried their politics many a time with us. You know, in fact, you know, we've trounced them 6-7 times, and we're not hawhau or anything, but we decide, we're going to have to put an end to these people. You know, us trouncing them going back to the Crown, getting babied, and then coming back to us for more. You know, they won't be able to do that soon. Okay? They won't be able to do that soon, and so aroha mai e tātou ma. Sometimes I'm in a bit of a hurry when I eat, and I wanted to get on a bit sooner rather than later. And plus I couldn't wait to eat, so I had a bit of a kai. But I'm sharing you all these things because we're going to lead into a lot of that kōrero very soon around those two particular complaints, and they're very valid complaints, no matter how the Crown might back them up, you know, because we're going to ask for the evidence. Where's the evidence? You know, and if, you know, the Crown says still that they're an iwi, I'll go, where's the iwi structure in this tribe? You know, can you show me that? You know, where are the chiefships to prove it? You know, where's the seniority? Okay? You need some extreme seniority and some extreme mana, some extreme tapu. Tapu is when we're getting into the more senior areas of what we're talking about. We're getting into senior authority there. And we're getting into the highest in the motu. And the most senior would be those 7 tribes in the motu. So if you're not within those 7 tribes, if that's not one of your names, then you've got to be exaggerating or boasting somewhere. Okay? You've got to be exaggerating or boasting somewhere now. You can't go running to the Crown anymore. Okay? And this is why I remember saying last week that at some point, you know, you're going to be so hammered down that you're not going to want to get up again. It's because it's going to be far too embarrassing for you. Some people say to me, "Oh no, you're gonna all go to war and create havoc for each other, and they're going to be the worst off." I said, no. Most probably not, but, you know, all arrows point to that. Yeah, can I just explain that clearly? All the conclusions point to that the only way to settle this is via war. But we've got a lot better ideas. We just don't want to share them too much. And we're going to utilize all of that. Yeah, I just want to leave it there because, you know, strategically, I think we know enough in the space now. We're quite experienced in the space now. You know, 27 years we've been leading in the space now. We're part of the top in the motu. We've been that way since 2011. Yeah, we've got this one. Let me put it that way. We've got this one. And it's going to be too shameful for these groups to start to argue against and to want to raise their ugly head again against us, because what they're going to find is there's far too much substantial evidence against everything that they claim, and that everything that we have got is extremely substantially proven and substantially concluded around the things that we claim, so much so that they're going to be very, very embarrassed if they should raise their ugly heads again to argue against. I mean, a lot of what they've gone to, I mean, everything that they've taken to the Crown, run off to them, had a tangi wetu, and said, oh, look, they've proven us wrong here. We've got no whakapapa original line ancestry descents for Tahumaakaakanuimatua from Rangitane or Kahunu. Can you just sanction it through that they have to settle under us? Can you just, and that's what these two junior groups have been doing, and they haven't realised that we've been watching them do it. They haven't realised that, and they haven't realised that the more we made them sanction, that's why we did that. We unloaded all our guns, all our major ammunition, all the ammo that we had, we unloaded all of it, We made sure that they ran to the Crown to get everything still sanctioned through, and they did that, and they got sucked in. They shouldn't have done that, because that made things very, very embarrassing for them in the end. That's extraordinarily, however you say it, extraordinarily, that's how you say it, remarkably, shockingly shameful that they went to over-sanction all these things through so many times. It's just disgusting. Just disgusting. And in fact, the huge majority of their claims shouldn't have gone through. However, by that point, however, I'm more likely to be more optimistic at this point and await the materialization of things around the settlement bill, which should actually bring us through pretty quickly to the settlement. Now, whilst we await for the settlement, we're getting on with business as usual, keeping ourselves busy, and, pretty confident with the fact that settlement is coming up. We just don't know when that's going to be. But as soon as materialisation of things through the settlement bill actually start to happen, we should see some pretty rapid moves towards the actual settlement. Crown will probably have a chat to us. We'll get ready to go into settlements. They'll give us the date, location and time. And me and my runanga nui o Tahu, te runanga nui o Tahu and I will make our way there. We'll have our final meet around things, around our kai, on the day that we go there a couple of hours before that particular procedure, that particular hui, where we start working through the initial talks around our actual settlement and the settlement deal. Now, we're looking forward to all those things. We're perhaps just a little bit disappointed it hasn't happened yet, but it has for some small groups, like Wairarapa Moana and Rangitane Nui Arangi. They didn't know, but, and in fact, we only found out about Rangitane Nui Arangi, when was it, about November last year? So we didn't even know that they had started settling. Around about July, August last year, we did hear some kōrero, but we failed to make sure of it. We failed to get the right kōrero. So, and that's what we do. If we can't get the right kōrero, we'll leave it for a while until we can find the right kōrero. And then we got that around November. And that's when I was able to, was it November or August, September? Might have been September, and I got to kōrero with one of the leaders of the Rangitane. In fact, I believe the CEO of Rangitane, Te Runanga o Rangitane office, and I got to meet with them and talk around. And yes, they had already started to settle their claims. I think the first one was Te Tapere Nui o Whakataunga, and that was it. But I think they had some in Tāmaki Nui Arua and around those regions. Now, this is the major reason that we have big problems with their settlements in those areas, because a majority of those areas would be actually Māmoe, Tahumaakaakanuimatua, and Kahu, first of all, not Rangitane. Now, Rangitane Nui Arangi need to understand that there is a lot more, what they have researched, and their chief researchers and all those sorts of people, I know all of them, people like Tupuna, Crisp and all of them, they haven't done enough of the homework. They haven't done enough of the homework, and the reason I say that is because they haven't gone broadly enough. Their homework, and they haven't gone in-depth enough or unilaterally enough, broadly enough, because e tatauma, the the major reasons that I say that is because they've yet again, and this is what they tend to have a habit of doing, these junior groups, most junior groups, I should say, not just junior, is they forget about all the senior lineages and connections within the regions where they claim, or within the regions where they find their actual ancestries are, and their claims, and then by the time they go and settle, they don't realise they've settled over a whole bunch of lands, a whole bunch of ancestries that actually don't belong to them. and that would be the Māmoe ones. There are also a number of other groups within that region as well. Tāmaki nui a rua is not just Kahunu Rangitā. There's Waitaha Rangi, there's Ākai Nui, there's Tahumaakaakanuimatua, and I think there's one other. But Rangitā Nui a Rangi are definitely in there. We're not arguing and saying that you're not. You definitely are. Aroha mai, getting some mozzies here, making a nuisance of themselves. Yeah, so we're quite happy and quite confident that settlement will be coming up very soon. But whilst we are awaiting our settlements, we just could not let that go any further, because we felt we had waited long enough and researched into things long enough to be able to make fully the complaints against Rangitā Nui a Rangi, who majoritarily have actually settled on Tahumaakaakanuimatua land. In fact, most of the land in the north as well, just like most of Wairarapa Tararua, is actually Tahumaakaakanuimatua land. And in fact, whakapapa kōrero-wise, we are the only group that we whakapapa genealogically to the entirety of the whole of Wairarapa Tararua. But only certain lands remain within our rangatiratanga. Now, because Kahunu Rangitāne are much smaller groups within the region, then that goes along with their final settlements. Now, I doubt that these complaints are going down too well. I dare say they would have been told already. So I wouldn't, they wouldn't have had to wait to hear me talk about it online. They would have found out from our representatives of the Crown. Now, one of the things that we need to specifically talk around with those groups is the actual fact that they can't establish legalities. They call those legalities 6699. When things are sanctioned through their legalities, they're not actually legalities. So, all of the stuff that we've already proven that and that are disproven amongst all the things that they claim are still, even though they don't want to admit it to the public, they're going to have to, they are still inaccurate. Okay? And, that goes without saying that most of the ancestries that they've settled over as a result are actually Tahumaakaakanuimatua and not the particular groups that WesternDivide claims that they're settled over. And also, where Rangitā Nui a Rangi are concerned, the majority there, obviously, Tahumaakaakanuimatua again, and not the actual groups that Rangitane says. And that's the problem with Kahunu Rangitane. Anything they touch or anywhere they are, they think everyone else is that too. And that's the overly over-exaggerated state of the claims that they brought to the claims process way back when, Aroha mai. Ahua tonu hoki taku te haa mare tonu hoki ahai. No nanahi, arai te mea taku haa mare, te mea kino tonu, ia i ko taku puku. Ahua mea na taku puku no te rai nahi. Ana, na reira hau I ahua māwiwi ai nā nahi. I was a little bit unwell yesterday. But by late afternoon, I'd come right. And I thought to myself, okay, things are looking pretty good now for me. I was still a bit coughy, but was my tummy, and I don't know what that was. Sometimes you just don't know. I was eating well and all that sort of thing, but Just my tummy just wasn't quite, you know, I was a little bit sore, and I didn't know, couldn't work out the reasons why. I was going to head off to the docks, but realised that I could look after it quite fine by myself. And then by late afternoon, it had gone. So I was all fine there. But yeah, e Tahumaakaakanuimatua. Very interesting kōrero, eh? Very interesting kōrero. And this is some of the ways in which the kahunu and rangitane have been somewhat manipulative with the crown, with things above the ground. Remember me talking about that's the major way in which they politic you in this space. They politic you through manipulation of all points above the ground. And they do that with the crown. The other way that they do it is that they manipulate the public to think that their legalities are actually legalities. See, and so that's a part of the call that I wanted to share with you today, because actually those legalities are not so legal at all. And they are hugely part of the actual complaints that we're bringing to the attention of the Crown, and also the attention of the Waitangi Tribunal. You know, because we've been raising these issues right through, you know, the last 14, 15 years, we've been raising all these issues. Now, they've got to listen. They've got to listen, because we're the only ones in the space been telling the truth all the time. Okay, it's been us. Why? Because we already know we've got things together. You know, we've got no reasons to lie or anything like that. We've got no inaccuracies to share. You know, because we've worked hard to get things right. And that's what we've been trying to do right through. Get things right, keep things right. And this is what we disliked about the Tūhoe role in most things, is that what they tried to do was hold everything up and keep us held back. You know, that's disgusting, you know, sore sport type ways of dealing with things. You know, that sort of tactic we dislike very, very much. And that's why, you know, with the Tūhoe, you know, even though I'm connected with Tūhoe, you know, we do not. I pulled out of Tūhoe back in 2010. Now, they were the first group I pulled out of. I mentioned to you my ex-whānau mob I pulled out of in around about 2014, 2015. Now, e Tahumaakaakanuimatua, we would not be mistaken to say, you know, with the Tūhoe, there are no grounds anymore for authentic interrelations with them. We cannot build on that, on any grounds like that. And no use Tūhoe going around saying mate ao ne ki tētahi ki tētahi. This, forget that. Get the basics done properly first, and make sure there's grounds for authentic interrelations first. Because if you haven't got that, and there isn't a level playing field there for everybody, then Tūhoe might as well give that sort of thing up. And I think I stumbled on talking around that because of the way that Reo Hapu operates. It operates exactly like that. Mate ao ne, where everyone works together in united fashion. All of the interrelations are strongly bound and true to each other. And you are all in together. Not, you know, necessarily as one whole people. You got to remember, we were always tribal. We were always super tribal, always super tribal. Now, there's no race of our people. Okay, so our major super tribes I spoke about at the beginning of this kōrero would give you a very, very clear idea as to how super tribal we were. These 7 of the most extended, the greatest extents of super tribes amongst us we're made up of lots and lots of different united tribes and all super tribes among us. So, all Hapu, Ureta, Rewa, Uri, all of our consistencies were made up of that. So, you know what? It would be so much better if, people like the Tūhoe stopped being so ambitious and also started to get things right and in place before they started to go around trying to influence things in that particular way. And we find Tūhoe very, very political in that way. They will try to influence things only in a way that politically can help them to be in in the most powerful position that they can be, even if it means exaggerating that position. And that's not good. That's not good. That sort of thing is called mana munching or kake. That sort of thing is called kake. Okay, they've got to cut that out in Tūhoe. And they've also got to understand that a lot of people like ours, one of the most senior in the mutu, are always going to come down on them. So, yeah, there you go. Some kōrero, some reality checks for the Tūhoe. Yeah, and but we understand that. We understand that is the non-kupapa understanding and thinking and considerations around the super tribal thinking of how we can relate universally to each other and be one, which is te Moteo, ki TeTaiHauauruAukatiTai, all very well and good. Yeah, but we just got to have the basic grounds for that, for the authentic interrelations around that to be able to take place. That's all we say. Okay, so these two settlements had been in process over these times, and so what we have been ensuring and encouraging is that with the Crown, I've got more talks with them on these tomorrow, that with the Crown that we continue to get that clarity. And we should be able to complain against anybody's settlements, especially if they're settling over our lands. And let's face it, we've got the investigation there now. We haven't gone there yet, but we may do later. Should we not get all the kōrero out of them that we want from them, we're going to go straight to the police and get the police to finish off our investigations among those groups. And they're going to have to come clean because they're not to know. They're not to know. But just utilising the Crown to make everything legal beagle isn't the go anymore. Not with us around. You've got to have things legal with us around. And so, that doesn't quite, meet the grade. A lot of what, they're settling and a lot of the kōrero that they're sharing publicly. I mean, it's a little bit like, through 2012 onwards, right through there, 2012 to 2015, all we got was lies. Rukahu katoa ngā kōrero e putana mai I roto kahunu, e putana mai anō hoki I roto rangitāne nui a rangi. We were not happy about that state of affairs. We were getting sick and tired of the lies. Same with Tūhoe. Te rūkahu hoki. Not good. Not good to be witness to all of that sort of thing going on in the space. Even in settlements, you can't do it right. Ko te rūkahu hoki tonu, tēnei e putana mai I roto I ngā Whakataunga Kereeme kia koutou. No, that's not happening. That's not happening, any of that. You're still lying. Just because the Crown will sanction for you, the Crown is not the primary authority on anything. The Crown, you have to remember, will support you if they see you as the LNG and you tell them, oh, this is correct. See, what we've got is correct, but we need your sanctioning. See, and that's what you've been doing, and you don't realise that we know that's what you've been doing. Okay? So you will need, I'm talking to the kahunu rangitane and the tūhoe. They will need to let go of that sort of politics because we got you beaten there. Okay, we got you absolutely beaten there. And none of that sort of politics, none of that sort of, well, to us it's still sort of criminal, because you already know that your kōrero is inaccurate. Okay, which means that you've been disproven on just about all your major claims. Okay, so you've got to learn to let that go. Once you've been disproven, you've got to let that go. Okay, because no amount of sanctioning is going to make it any more right. Okay? Yeah, and so that's the state of those two complaints there. The third one that was there was obviously around Te Tiriti, and I've explained that very, very clearly. And I'm pretty sure people have got that kōrero down pat. Down pat. And it's obvious fraud. Obvious, eh? Now, the thing with that is that just so we wouldn't affect our claims, we were told that we were advised that it would, and it could very much so affect our settlements, not our claims. So we backed off on that one and we added it to our amended statement of claim, which is to come. So with the amended statement of claim, e Tahumaakaakanuimatua, and I've got it here on my computer, in the present state and form that it is in. And let's not forget that this isn't going to be the final form, but this is how it's sitting at the moment, e Tahumaakaakanuimatua. This is how it's sitting at the moment. And there's been some changes already. There's been some work from Te Runanga Nui o Tahu from the 10th. At the moment it's dated 20th 03rd 2023, and the actual statement of claim, we've got everything in there now, so we've pretty much got a final on the statement of claim, and we've pretty much come very, very close to that. Just possibly some wording. There's some wording that some people have advised they would like to see a little bit different, which is something we're going to work at in the different areas of the claim. And of course, it's whittled down from 2009 as a 95-page claim right down to a almost 2-page claim. Okay. Now, you might as well say it is a 2-page claim, but it's just the ending part on the last page there. Now, so the amended statement of claim, why was it important to get that right and the concluding or the final part of that right? Well, we need it properly ready for the settlements, obviously. And so, the amended statement of claim has changed considerably, and even from the 10th, it has changed. So the date that we've got on it at the moment is 20th of the 3rd, 2023. And don't forget, Te Runanga Nui o Tahu is still working on it, so this is not the final copy. What I read for you from here on our claim is not the final copy, and neither will it be the one signed off by the registrar. But I wanted to share with you the extent of our claim, the extent of allegations, and the extent of impacts on our people, the exact things that they did to our people, the Crown did. But a lot of it beginning with the fraudulence in 1840, but most of it taking place around about between 1850 and 1853-54 up to now, up to 2023. And, just total disregard for us as a people, our lands, our people, our new generations. They just didn't seem to care stuff about anything to do with us. And so through that particular control that they fraudulently took over our land in 1840, they actually took apart our people through their different ways of what they called governance and what they call civil government. In 1854, you have to remember, was the time that the first parliament under the current Westminster system was established in the country. And that was pretty much the destruction of everybody in the country. People forget about that first parliament actually destroyed most of us. 1854 to 1920 in particular is the period that most of us got destroyed out of the way. I mean, even Tuhoe, and Tuhoe doesn't see that. But they don't realise how things changed for them between that time. Between 1854 and 1970 in particular, 1960, 1970, they had changed dramatically. So a lot of the things that they had done had gone feudal. I believe that's where a lot of the feudalism and their tikanga and their understanding of things and of their heritage started to change. And that's where a lot of the effects on Tuhoe started to tell of colonization. Aloha mai, I'm just, got some mozzies being nauseous. He hōhā me te hea I roto nei. So, if I can just begin, kaea, matiaha, te arohatai, right at the top left-hand corner. This is how it reads at the moment. Now, we're still going to work with this as of next week, and I'll show you what we put in exactly to the tribunal, which won't go in until Friday. But I'll have that particular copy for you on Monday next week when I come back, and continue our kōrero around the Whakataunga Kereeme, around our settlements. E tātou mā, and the significance, I want you to understand the significance of the amended statement of claim. Once we've got that final through, I think we will be able to understand whether it can be taken as a confirmed concluding final. And if so, we'll know after that. Once that's registered through, we'll know after that. There's also, we're still waiting on the registration of the new claim, and that's the United Tribes flag claim. That one hasn't come back yet registered, but we believe they're still deliberating over that particular claim. I put that on behalf of Te Puku o Te Ika a Māori, and Te Puku o Te Ika a Māori in particular, the North Island Central, and being the most senior group of all the groups of North Island Central, I put it in for that area. And e tātou mā, that particular claim has 4 different claimants, 4 different parts. And in the north, I think Moai are holding on to that one. The next part is, of course, us, Te Puku. And then the next part is Lower North Island, top of the south. And then the last part is TeTaiHauauruAukatiTai. And so, just a little bit on that particular claim. We haven't got that one back yet registered. Either they will ask for more information around that claim, or they will register it. I'm hoping that they register it, because it's a very interesting and very necessary claim for us, especially around that flag, which has been maltreated ever since we got it from King William VI in 1834. Okay? The representatives of the Crown here, Busby Ma, they didn't treat that flag honourably. That's treasonous. That's treasonous. Had our people have not, well, I don't think our people saw that as important at that time. They may not have, or they may not have known that properly or understood that properly at that time. But back in 1835, when we signed He Whakaputanga o te rangatiratanga o ngā Hapu o New Tireni, te wakaminenga and all of that, the establishment through that came through a very, very dodgy and very, very, how can I put it, a very, very corrupted Crown, representative body here in the country operating particularly for itself. As individuals, even though they were here representatives of the Crown back in Westminster, we have far better relations with the Crown in Westminster. Our alliances with them were absolutely rock solid, and still are today, to my understanding. But what we had in 1840 and not long after was the obvious takeover of the New Zealand Crown, who masterminded all this stuff. There was Busby and all those guys. Hobson, they masterminded all this stuff with the TDT. As the, it's obvious that it was to follow on. The TDT to follow on as part of the road towards things, the right path towards the development of partnership and alliance in the country. But of course, those representatives of the Crown that were here, representative and members of the New Zealand Crown, in particular, they wanted 100% authority over the country, and they wanted the country taken, in particular, for Great Britain. I'm just trying to get a bit more comfy here with my computer. Got my laptop here, sitting on this area here, and we're going to get a good look at the amended statement of claim at the moment. But by Friday, we should have something like a concluding document of that. This is the state of it right now. Top from the top right hand corner, top left, my left. Kaya matia te aroa hatai, te rangipu atata, te aliki matia. Tahumaakaakanuimatua Hapu, te runanga nui o Tahu, and Tahu Hapu Nui Tonu Incorporated, President, GM, Chief Executive, TeTaiHau Trust, Chief Executive Officer, Tahu Investments Limited, care of 66 High Street North, Kārata Waitarapa, te tiri o te moana, Aotearoa, New Zealand, and I only put that because that's all we can fit in there. Te tiri o te moana should be te tiri o te moana Hawaii ki tau Aotearoa, New Zealand, for us, because 5713, because remember Aotearoa to us means the South Island. The problem with a lot of our evidence is a lot of people follow just the major writing of Kupe. But there were a number of sightings. Kupe's sighting, wasn't the only sighting of our land. That just records one sighting, and let's not forget there were two Kupe. Okay, one of them we believe came in 1000, round about 1000. The other one came just prior to the Te Tini o Toi, around about 1200. Okay, now the 1000 one is the first kupe, who is a descendant of ours. Okay, descendant of Tahumaakaakanuimatua through Moai Hapu, through Tawa Hapu, and through us. The second one is a descendant of that kupe, so it's also a descendant of ours, but through Rarotonga. See, so that's the second kupe who came much later, and that was prior to the 1350 or thereabouts migration. That's the other primary migration. So the second one, the most important one, the second primary one, primary migration happened around about 1200, and that was following the kupe that we all hear about. Now, the very first kupe saw the South Island first, and we believe that the second kupe saw New Zealand and actually, exclaimed Aotearoa as well. But that was looking at, I believe, the South Island, because the actual South Island has always been, because they've trekked through the strait, okay, the Cook Strait. Te moana o Mirutakaka, okay, te moana o Mirutakaka, we know that is the Cook Strait. And the reason they'd come through there, the kupe, is because the first one was chasing the octopus. Now, the second one was making their journey to find Aotearoa. Now, that was where the wahine there, his sister, I believe it was, Papaoi, who exclaimed Aotearoa, Aotearoa, okay? And that was because, according to our kōrero, Aotearoa was already seen, which was the South Island. Okay, and if you look at the Southern Alps there, you just about always see a huge, long, white cloud right over the top of the Southern Alps. When you're out at sea, you can always see that. You can't see that in the North Island so much. You can on the East Coast. But most of the migrations didn't happen through the East Coast. See, they came through from the north. Okay, that they were top of the north first, most of them. Unless you drifted through, just like the first kupe did when he was chasing the taniwha, he chased that through the Cook Strait. That's why we call that the moana o Mirutakaka. Okay? Now, we know all that kōrero and everything around the Cook Strait and the kōrero around that taniwha. But yeah, I just thought I'd add that kōrero just so that you know. Hawaii ki tau is in fact the major major name of the North Island, utilised by all of the most senior in the land, that particular name for the North Island, pre-1769. Aotearoa was the South Island, pre-1769. And of course, Te Tiri o te Moana was the whole of the motu. Okay, that's the only name we have that can actually define the country in the same way as New Zealand does, or New Tireni. Okay, New Tireni. Now, part of the disgusting thing that the representatives of the New Zealand Crown did was that they counted out the Declaration of Independence pretty quickly afterwards. They duped us, got us to sign it. Then they could take out the discovery kōrero on the country over that time. They could, take it over and actually try to make that particular kōrero come under Captain Cook, which is what they actually wanted. Okay, that meant they had to destroy the mana of the United Tribes flag, which they did, quite criminally. As you well know, that is a treacherous thing back in their time, back in 1835, but they still did it. But to try and get away with that, they, of course, had to destroy the mana and authority of the declaration in the land. Now, what they forgot to do was ensure that our custom law did not uphold it still. And to their embarrassment, our custom law still upholds the Declaration of Independence. So not only should contra preferentum, the fourth article of Te Tiriti, be upheld, but also the declaration in terms that via custom law is still a very, very legal document, the declaration, and therefore a very legal and accepted by all our super tribes and all of the preeminent super tribes of the Motu as a very specific and significant part of the documents that form our constitution in the country. And not just Te Tiriti, but he whakaputanga o te rangatiratanga o ngā hapu o New Tireni. So shame on those Crown. Yeah, shame on them, but their kōrero is not going to go by unnoticed. And they're not going to be able to hide any of that, because we're going to share all of that kōrero all the time with the whole of the world. Okay, so they cannot hide that. We cannot take away the mana and authority of the declaration at all. Why? Because custom law, or tikanga, tika and kawa, and of course, in particular, the paeke o Tahumaakaakanuimatua, our mana tika, our mana taitika, our justice system of Tahumaakaakanuimatua fully upholds the Declaration of Independence and the wakaminenga, of course, the Confederation of Chiefs and the United Tribes flag. Okay, so just clarifying all of that for you. So kaya matia ha te arohata i te rangi pūhata, te ariki matia Tahumaakaakanuimatua Hapu, te runanga nui o Tahu and Tahu Hapu Nui Tunu Incorporated, President, GM, Chief Executive, Tahu Trust, Chief Executive Officer, Tahu Investments Limited, Care 66, High Street North, Kāratam, Wairarapa, 66 High Street North, Kāratam, Wairarapa, Te Tiri o te Moana, Aotearoa, New Zealand 5713. To the Registrar, Waitangi Tribunal, DXSX 11237 Wellington, 20th 03, that's today, 20th 03 2023. And let's not forget, because those suggestions that have been made today so far that we've seen, there's probably a lot more gone through from Te Runanga Nui o Tahu. We have put those through so far, and of course we're leading on to Friday now, and we're not going to close it off until Friday and then put it through then. Okay, because some of the guys and two of the girls in Te Runanga Nui o Tahu haven't had their chance to be able to add their comments on their considerations onto the final of the amended statement of claim. Number one, Kāia ariki matua o Tahumaakaakanuimatua Hapu in representation of our blanket claim and or overlapping claim Y2225 on behalf of all the Hapu super tribes or Hapu Ure Tārewa of Tahumaakaakanuimatua declare on all of our behalf, and descents of and or therein of all our districts or nationally theretofore, show we are all able to be described as Māori. Okay? That doesn't say or authorise that we're only Māori, or we're definitely Māori. That says we are able to be described as Māori, which is befitting, because everything that people call Māori today, or the Crown ever called Māori in the country, is still relative to that, and that's fine with us. But we, quite legally, do not associate with any race called Māori. Okay? And I made that clear in this year's census too. Number 2, for ourselves and each of the Hapu super tribes, including each strategically intermarried ancestry. And we did a lot of that right throughout the Mutu. One of the most strategic intermarrying tribes in the country, Tahumaakaakanuimatua. And that's why we've got so many Hapu Hapu and that's why we've got, today, even in pre-1769, we had 160,000 plus people. Nowadays, we have 260,000 plus. We've possibly got more now, and we just don't know it yet. But number 2, the second part of the claim, for ourselves and each of the Hapu super tribes, including each strategically intermarried ancestry, each among the overlapping also over centuries. Now, overlapping means overlapping into different other iwi, or overlapping into different other tribes and lands. Okay, if you can understand that. So what that means is into some iwi. When it comes to iwi and iwi, when you overlap, that means to say that you both have a right of claim to ancestries. That's if you're truly iwi. Okay, so this would only include the 7 primary preeminent super tribes of the country. Okay, so if you're one of those tribes, as soon as you have connection to ancestries between you, you both have right. Okay, but the majority or the overwhelming right of ancestries within those uri from that particular line of ancestry, usually affiliated under the senior. Okay. So, and that's why we always end up with so many people and so many different aroha mai. Got sandflies creeping in and around and about here. But yeah, that's some of the basic things around whakapapa and whakapapa kōrero, and being able to interpret a lot of those through tikanga and kawa, that a number of our tribes need to try and get used to, especially people like, I've shared a lot of that with them, especially people like Kahunu Rangitane. They just don't have a clue. They just don't have a clue. They think they're a bit like King Midas, and everything they touch turns to exactly what they want it to. Something like that. That's not true. That's not true. There are customs, there are kawa, there are tikanga, there is tika as well. It's a part of law and order, the way that you read those particular things. So, for ourselves and each of the Hapu super tribes, including each strategically intermarried ancestry, each among the overlapping also over centuries, dating back over more than 1,000 years, from throughout all our lands nationally, Te Reinga to Tāmaki Makaurau, that's the top of the north, to Auckland, Tauranga to Heretaunga Wairua, that's Tauranga through the Bay of Plenty, and among the awa, among the tūhoe, throughout the Urewera, within, in particular, I didn't name those ones because they're pretty sure of who those are already in the claim. So I just put tauranga to Heretaunga Wairua, which includes Waikare Moana, Ruatahuna, Ruatoki, Mani, Waimana, Te Waimana, Whakataunga, tauranga. So all those areas, we've got a number of ancestors from right throughout there, even ones that we connect into through Moriori, right through those areas. Maamoe are right through those areas. Rākainui and Tahumaakaakanuimatua are also right through those areas. But I just put tauranga to Heretaunga Wairua there. Waipawa to Te Whanganui o Rotu, Te Whanganui-a-Tana. So that's Waipawa, nearby Te Waipukurau o Ruakuha. We're getting into southern Heretaunga Tamatea of Heretaunga Wairua, those areas, all the way to Te Whanganui o Orotu, Te Whanganui-a-Tara, which is Wellington, our name for Wellington. Aroha mai. And what we believe to be the Tutura name of that area, of Wellington area, is Te Whanganui Orotu, Te Whanganui-a-Tara. And the reason we know that is because a lot of our ancestries are still in those lands. And so we reclaim significantly in the Wellington area. And in some areas, whole areas, like Whakatiki, Upper Hutt, we claim the entirety of that land. Most of our claims around those areas, including from Porirua to out to Aorangi, which is Martin, a little bit the same. Quite substantial claims too, but and the entirety of Horowhenua as a part of that. So let's carry on here. Waipawa to Te Whanganui Orotu, Te Whanganui-a-Tara, including Wairarapatararua. Porirua to Aorangi, that I've just been talking about. Waimarino. Now, Waimarino is King Country. And for us, that extends in Aotearoa Pōtai, and we're part of Aotearoa Pōtai. And just to refreshing your memory, that's one of our waka that a lot of our descendants came on over from Raiatea Tahiti, the Aotea. Okay? And so it's not surprising that we have substantial claims in Aotearoa Pōtai, especially in Waimarino, which begins for us at Whanganui, at the very eastern point of Whanganui, Ohakune, and revolves around Ohakune, all those areas, Ruapehu, which we call Parikita Taitonga, and onto Whenuakura, which leads into Pātea Te Hāwira, where I have whakapapa that extends into those areas anyway. So whether we like it or not, Tahumaakaakanuimatua is still right throughout those areas, and we still claim lineage and heritage and interests and rights in Taranaki Mounga anyway. Okay? And so, yeah, those things are very, very important to understand as well. So, Waimarino revolves around all of that and goes right up to the top of the King Country, includes Taranaki, New Plymouth, all those areas, including Taranaki Mounga, and all those areas around there that particularly revolve around Aotearoa Pōtai and all those particular areas there. So that particular part of it is called Waimarino, which goes up to Taumarinui, the southern part of Tauponuiatia, all those areas there. But we're in particular in Ohakune, Raitihi, Waiouru, Whanganui, Whenuakura, and Parikite-Tai-Tonga. So we're in all those areas in particular. Okay? So that's right along the desert road as well. So e tātauma, let me carry on here. Te tauihu o te Whakaamangi, that's the top of the south. Te taitapu to Tautaranui, and te taitapu is on the west coast there, around to Tautaranui, that's coming around the top of the south. And right around to the Marlborough Sounds, to Arapawa, and Queen Charlotte Sound, that's Tautaranui, and Kaikoura, ending at Kaikoura. That's where our claims at the top of the south close. Te TeTaiHauauruAukatiTai, which within which our claims begin at Kaiapoi to Murihiku, and Te Punga o Te Waka, which is Stewart Island, to Te Anau, Pio Pio Tahi, Tamatea, and Te Tūtai o Tū Te Raki Whanua, which all, we're talking Fiordland, Milford Sound, Tamatea, Pio Pio Tahi. Te Anau, Murihiku, which is Southland, and also Te Tūtai o Tū Te Raki Whanua, that's Fiordland. Te Tai o Pautini, which is all of the west coast. Now, we've added into there Moturau, Manapouri, Ora, Wānaka, Makarere, Okarito, Okuru, Pukaki, Aorangi, which is Mount Cook, Mahinapua, Hokitika, Arahura, Taramahau, Mawhera, which is Greymouth, and then Punakai ki Tauranga near Westport. Okay, that's some of the names of the areas on the west coast there of the South Island that we have significant claim. In fact, only the areas we have the overwhelming claims in those areas. That's why we've named those ones. Okay, and any other minor claims that come in later on, people will obviously fine for those and claim through into those as well. And that's fine by us, so long as we get all the major ones. And that's all we're after, our major claims, etc., etc. In most of these, though, you'll find we've covered them all, in most of them. So it's not very often, you might get that around Punakaiki and around Westport. So around Westport, you might actually find, give or take a little, some of the rights and interests that we haven't covered from here that are still significant that people want to cover, and that'll be fine by us. All they need to do is pass that by us, tell us the different, claims around there, who the ancestries are, the lands into which they claim, etc., etc. Oh, aroha mai e tatauma. I should have closed everything up here because it's a bit noisy out there, and also I'm getting lots of sandflies coming in here. Now I'm getting an itchy nose, which is nauseous. I got real nauseous last week, and I get that sometimes. But kaitepai, because let's not forget the most important part of what we do here is our kōrero. So long as the kōrero gets through, I'm not really worried about anything else. And I also noticed last week I was too late to get that, but I wasn't worried, but I still had part of my mask on, which I wasn't worried about anyway. I didn't care, I just kept on going. And it would have taken some work to get that off, but I didn't really care anyway. So, Hokitika Arahura Taramahau, Mawhera o Greymouth, Punakai ki Tauranga near Westport. E tāma, that's a big claim. That's a big claim, and most substantial in the South Island. I mean, because especially when you add the eastern part of the South Island claim to the western, that's quite considerable. Considering too the fact that Tahu Pōtiki is only uri, and that we are the most senior and primary iwi in those regions, because actually Tahu Pōtiki comes most directly from us. If you look at the reo of Tahu Pōtiki down there, I mean, if they're still claiming that reo down there, that reo comes from us. It doesn't actually, come from any part of Porourangi or any of the areas of Awa or anything like that. That is in particular a reo that derives through concepts, through Tahumaakaakanuimatua in particular, and has that particular way about it, and especially with regards to the reo of the Waitaha Nui and Waitaha Ariki, we know those reo. Okay, so if and this particular reo that Tahu Pōtiki uri say is their reo, if that is, then they do speak one of the southern reo. And that southern reo would be in particular relative to the Waitaha Nui. And that's one thing I just want to share with you. I don't know why I'm getting an itchy nose now. I just want to share with you that around the reo of HapuIwi.Amuamu.SOC.20.03.23. Reo do derive from your uretārewa, okay? That does not mean to say that you're an iwi, okay? That doesn't make you an iwi. That still makes you a hapu uretārewa. You're not an iwi until you are hapu nui tonu uretārewa rānei. Okay? So let's get that right. By the time you're an iwi, I mean, this is what has been our argument all the way through. I mean, we've had too many tribes claiming that they were iwi along our journey. Too many tribes were claiming that they were iwi. You know why? You know why we got a bit nauseous at that? Because they couldn't be. Because the simple fact of the matter being e tatauma, that to formulate our reo and formulate our ancestries of super tribes in the first place, or hapu uretārewa of united tribes and or super tribes in the first place, you need several different lines. And in most cases those lines were all hapu uretārewa, or they were iwi, te mea. Now what that did was formulated a particular line of descent and also reo, which meant that because you had two or three lines, you had two or three reo that mixed in together. Okay? So by the time you get to iwi stage, you have about 8 or 10 different reo altogether. And then when you, if the top line is one of the hapu nui tonu uretārewa of the motu, then what you've got is also all the other different reo that make up an iwi reo as well, that are a part of that. So, and this was our gripe, was that all these tribes were claiming that they were iwi, and that iwi meant you had one reo. That's not true. Iwi have about 10 or 12. And if you look at our iwi actually has 21. We have 21 reo. Okay, and within that there's 12 uretārewa reo. Okay, and within that there's all the different functions of reo and the different types of reo within the stratifications of our reo, or levels if you like. Okay? So it takes a fair bit more to be an iwi. You know, just one reo to be an iwi doesn't cut it. Okay? Because iwi are far too extensive to be tribes with just one reo. So, yeah, and we thought that might be the case with the Tūhoe, you know, because the Tūhoe were for a long time claiming that they were an iwi and that they had this one reo that was Tūhoe, blah, blah, blah. We never ever heard about all the other reo that make up their iwi reo or anything like that. So these are the things we used to gripe about. Okay, but moving on, part three of the claim. TeTaiHauauruAukatiTai. I'm going to close up here. Try and close out a bit of that noise there. Sorry, TeTaiHauauruAukatiTai. Got people mowing lawns out there. We all started up at the same time. Now, part three in the amended statement of claim. We claim we were prejudicially affected by Crown and or agent acts and omissions resulting in this one today. I just wondered if I had put in Queenstown and then is Queenstown a part of our claims? I don't know, mate. We've got a couple of blinks going on there. Is Queenstown a part of our claims? I see we haven't put it in yet, but we will have that in there. So there are people who wanted to know, is Queenstown a part of our claims? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But I just realised it's not in there. But it doesn't matter. All the areas around Queenstown area are all named there anyway. 3. Claim we were prejudicially affected by Crown and or agent acts or omissions result. Aroha mai, I went on the blink again. Okay, resulting in the extent. I was talking about Queenstown too. Yes, Queenstown is a part of our claim. But we claim we were prejudicially affected by Crown and or agent acts and or omissions resulting in part 3 of the amended statement of claim, the extensive omission of our customary identity from history, I'm just wondering why that wasn't changed to all points above the ground. I just quite remember clearly that one of the considerations for that line was the extensive omission of our customary identity from all points above the ground. That's what that should say. But that's okay. It hasn't been done yet, obviously. Acts fast and in the same with cause to defraud, commencing via Te Tiriti 1840, acts fast and in the same with cause to displace via assumed sovereignty 1840, actual severe and vast displacement over 1839 to 1853 and 1854 to 2023 of key era, disempowerment and use of Te Awa Hapu, Moai Hapu, Reo Hapu, and Te Tiriti. They disempowered us in the land in using the reo in particular, which was an attraction to us. the truth and the actual factual kōrero and the definitions and the certainty of understanding of our tupuna of Te Tiriti in 1840 was so clear and so exact and so precise that it got all those signatures in, and that's what we mean there, that guaranteed the disempowerment of our authority in the land. Because what we didn't know that they were going to do also is defraud us through the use of the English text. So that's what we mean there, disempowerment in use of Te awa hapu, moai hapu, reo hapu in Te Tiriti. Landless almost by 1970 due to vast use of legislation and or alienation in order to control. Extensive muru and raupatu due to all of the above, assuring us impoverished and landless. Vast alienation and or isolation of lands and or preeminent tribes and or uri, hapu, Whakataunga. Gradual, and that's an important one. Most people don't think carefully about things like that, is that when you're a part of a hapu nui tonu re tārewa, that doesn't change. It doesn't matter about the status of tribes that have descended from you or who have come from your hapu nui tonu re tārewa. They are all still part of the original collective of your hapu nui tonu re tārewa. Now, Crown interventions totally disrupted that, and that's what that talks about. Landless almost, extensive muru and raupatu due to all of the above, assuring us impoverished and landless. Gradual total vast alienation and or isolation of lands and or preeminent tribes and or uri and or hapu uretarewa mangas. Gradual total disenfranchised of operations under ko huiarau and gradual total disenfranchised of traditional economic base 1840 to 2023. Almost total extensive muru and or pillage of our intellectual property and or rights over it. Extensive land loss and or pillage 1839 to 1853, 1854 to 2020. Almost total extensive murder and pillage of our... where were we? Almost total extensive... Sorry, I keep going on the blank. That's what keeps putting me off. Almost total extensive murder and or pillage of our intellectual property and or rights over it. Extensive land loss and or pillage 1839 to 1853, 1854 to 2023 of key era. Total alienation, muru, pillage, raupatu of our vast foreshore and seabed. Total alienation, muru, raupatu, pillage of lakes, waterways, streams and rivers. And initiations of poverty and landlessness via use of the Native Land Court 1862 to 2023. Now, that is due to the fierce alienation of land regime that they had in there. All our lands were alienated, and even though we were not partner to the Tiriti, we didn't sign it. We knew it was a rip-off, and we still got hammered for that. Part 4, and we claim they are contrary to the articles of the Tiriti or Waitangi of 1840, impacts as follows. Loss of knowledge of customary identity over 1839 to 1970, trespass of Articles 2 and 3. Loss of language, customs and culture, trespass of Articles 2 and 3. Destruction of each via fraud via the Tiriti 1840, Article 1 and the English text. Destruction of each via use of Te Reo and Te Tiriti and later English text. Vast impoverishment, land loss, trespass, and or fraudulent use of Articles 1 to 3 and Article 4, which was omitted. Vast alienation and or disconnect from economic base 1853 to 1970. Trespass of Articles 1 to 3. Vast impacts adverse to spiritual, cultural and mental health. Articles 1 to 3 on to 1947. So that's 1840 to 1947, that's what that means. Vast impacts adverse to physical, emotional, cognitive health as well. Articles 1 to 3 on to 1960 or 1840 to 1960. Vast erosion of cultural, lawful and or legal, social and political landscapes. Trespass of Articles 1 to 4. Okay, and that's part 4. Part 5, we ask permission to amend this claim, if necessary, and seek the following resolutions. Return of all our lands and or assets to our full control. Return of our wāhi tapu to our full control. Return of all lakes, rivers, streams and waterways to our full control. Return of all of our foreshore and seabed, just as our coastlines, to our full control. Return of all of our chattels, properties, buildings, finances to our full control. Return of all of our intellectual property to our full control. Return of all our rights over intellectual property to our full control. Return to us of governance via our tino rangatiratanga over all our assets and all resources. Public apologies to all Tahumaakaakanuimatua by Crown and or agents via all our claims districts. Extensive compensation for impacts and or effects via matters for grievance via all districts. Immediate return of ancestries and authority to legal traditional mandates nationally. Closed down to take effect immediately of Crown as partner in Te Tiriti 1840. That's because of the fraudulent way in which Te Tiriti was used in 1840. Closed down to take effect immediately of Crown authoritarian dictatorship in New Zealand. Okay? Now, that is because through the fraudulence via Te Tiriti 1840, they were able to claim sovereignty in the land. That was 6 months later after the signing. And then what they did was they created an authoritarian dictatorship over the country. Okay? And that was the end was coming. Return of original alliance with Westminster and the royal family, i.e. via King Charles. That's the alliance, through the Declaration of Independence and all other alliances in the country that we had through Westminster. Return of original partnership via Te Tiriti 1840 with Westminster also. Return of authority, possession and landlordship to us over all our lands. Return of the same to all 7 primary iwi of the country since pre-1769 AD. Endorse of authority, endorsed publicly of Te Whakamininga o Te Runanga ko Huiarau. Endorse of authority, endorsed publicly also of Te Whakamininga o Ngā Hapu. That's the declaration. Or the rangatiratanga. Oh, sorry, that's the that's the Whakamininga. That's the Confederation of Chiefs. Endorse of authority, endorsed publicly too of He Whakaputanga 1835. Official reinstatement of all above traditional systems of governance over New Zealand. Official acceptance of traditional law practices and systems of justice in all our lands. Okay, part 6. The tribunal has advised that at present our legal representative is still Kaya Matiaha Te Arohatai Te Rangipuatata, as we cannot find one more suited among lists provided. Part 7. We believe the following persons and organisations should be notified of this claim. Moai Hapu, He Whakaputanga 1835, Ko Huiarau, and the following super tribes and or united tribes, HapuIwi.Amuamu.SOC.20.03, Muaupoko, Tahupōtiki Uri, Waitaha Rangi, that's including the Rangi Nui Uri of Tauranga, Kahungunu Uri, Rangitane and Te Hika o Papaoi. All Crown government departments responsible for control and management currently of our lands, assets and resources. And part 8, we can be contacted care of the following address and phone. Kaya matia te aroa hatai te rangipua tata te ariki matia Tahumaakaakanuimatua Hapu. Te rūnanga nui o Tahu and Hapu Nui Tonu Incorporated. President GM Chief Executive Tahu Trust. Chief Executive Officer Tahu Investments Limited. Care of 66 High Street North. Kāretam Waidarapa, Te Tiri o Te Moana, Aotearoa, New Zealand 5713. Email kaya.tutahutrust@gmail.com. Mobile 0226906928. www.Tahumaakaakanuimatua. Okay, and that's an old website, that one. That was our very first one. We're still looking at the design of others, etc. at the moment. But e tatauma, and that's, pretty much our kōrero today. Sorry for the disruptions. We've had a lot of disruptions today, and it's funny how we kept, chiming in and out there. That's not a usual thing, but it decided it wanted to happen like that today. And we also had sandflies and all sorts of noise interruptions and stuff like that. But we soon got through the kōrero. Now, there's a fair bit of work still to go on that claim to bring it to a final. But we're getting there. We've only just started to put in those things that have been considered so far. But, a lot of that will get put into there from tonight, tomorrow night, Wednesday night as well. And then that'll conclude on the Friday afternoon, evening, before it gets sent away into the tribunal. Okay, so that's our kōrero for today. All our prayers to everybody out there. Those of us out there struggling, with medical concerns and, all those that are sick, all those out there struggling among the destitute, all our prayers go out there among those struggling in terms of with things like poverty, etc., etc. All those out there, being controlled by people that like to manipulate people away from their different groups, etc., just so that they can try and get things going their way. There's a lot of that. A lot of that happens right around the industry, and we laugh at that, because if people can't do things lawfully and justly, then they're wasting their time in this space. They're wasting their time in this space, actually. So, Father Lord Jesus, I ask of you, bring all your authority down on the lives of these people and bring them through their difficulties. Help them, Lord, support them through the difficulties that they have with staying strong. A lot of these people have it difficult to be strong with their own whānau and things like that. Why? Because you've got groups out there among people in the iwi or hapu development industry that like to disrupt their families in different areas and take control of them, manipulate them to do what they want, just because, their claims and their settlements are not honky-dory. Okay, Lord, so, all the prayers for all those people. And perhaps there should be some prayers too for all those perpetrators of all this difficulty among peoples. A lot of that sort of manipulation goes on. And I especially, special prayer there for the kahungunu rangitane. It seems like the kahungunu, have brought us into a point of great turnaround, so there should be no worries. And that's great news, because the status of things in the space is in turmoil. Hey, I mean, just by my explanations of things right through today, it shows you what a turmoil we've got. We've got chaos waiting to happen. Okay, there should relatively be war in these regions. Luckily, we're a lot smarter than that. But war. If we were to go out and wage war on people from the other tribes, that'll go tangiweto off back to the crown again and try and get things sorted out through that way. Now, lucky for us, all of their misgivings, the crown knows about all of them, and they are pretty well in big trouble. They cannot settle properly in these lands. Why? Because they know very well the huge majority of their claims and settlements would be, in actual fact, illegal. And no amount of sanctioning can change that. And so we're happy with the state of things around the settlement bill and the kahunu uri, the way that they gave effect, in particular, at the end of last year, to a very, very good turnaround in things, which we're hoping to materialise very, very soon and bring us through to the settlements very, very soon this year, in Jesus' name. Amen. Ka piti hono ka tātai hono ko rātau mā tērā tonu te mate ki a rātau. Ka piti hono ka tātai hono ko tātai mā tonu anō tēnei tātou katoa no kua. Kai te mihi atu, tēnā rā tātou, ka hurike mai nei roto i ngā mea katoa tērā. Hai aha, hai whai atu ngā tū āhuatanga katoa i roto i ngā kōrero. I te kōrero tonu. Ki roto ki ngā whakataunga Kereeme, kia Tahumaakaakanuimatua, 2023. Aroha mai. No reira, tēnā rā tātou, ka nui te mihi atu. Ka nui te mihi atu, tēnā rā tātou, tēnā rā tātou mauri ora. Ka huri.